What's up, Barker Raider? What's up, brother? What's up? What's up, Al B? Sergio Gomez? I see you. I see you, Mr. Gutierrez. Canelo, the king, rules boxing. He could rule today, pound for pound. Lawrence, he says, let's go, Jacobs. Barker Raider can't wait for fight time. You guys ready for the fight? What's up, Dragon Shot King 777? I see you, brother. Now, we're going to talk a lot of boxing. Today, we're going to talk about Canelo. We're going to talk about Spence. We're going to talk about AJ, Ruiz. Let's go, champ. That's right, brother. Let's dig into it. Let's get it going. Everybody, hit the like button. We got 27 people in here so far and only one like. We got more than that. It's Canelo versus Jacobs, the fight podcast there is. I see you, Marcus Garcia. Shout out to Marcus Garcia. Sergio Gomez. Ruiz versus AJ. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I'm going to have D. Jefferson step on. He's going to want to debate some stuff. We're going to give our predictions. First, I want to see what you guys think. What are you guys' predictions? Let's welcome in D. Jefferson. He's calling in. Let's go. What's up, D?
Hello?
D, what's up? Can you hear me?
What's up? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, D. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm all right. How you doing, bro?
Pretty good, bro. Let's
right.
let's dig into this Canelo Jacobs first, man, because this is gonna be a real good fight. And I want to hear your take. Who do you got winning? Canelo, Jacobs, and why?
Okay. I'm sorry. Canelo. I can't see Jacobs winning this fight.
Now, you don't see Jacobs having any chance to win the fight?
I'm not saying I don't see him having a chance to win this fight. Yeah, I see him having a chance to win this fight. But a slim chance. Just like, every time before these fights come up, the week these fights come up, I start doing the film on them, start looking at these guys. So I might have predictions, along the way just from what we've seen before. Mm-hmm. But I kind of go in and start doing film study on the guys the week of the fight. The more I've been looking at Jacobs and Canelo, man, I just, like, the least I see Jacobs having a chance to win. Initially I thought that it might be a 50-50. But Jacobs' footwork when he comes in the punches is horrible. And Canelo's going to take advantage of that all night. And I don't know if anybody, you just got to kind of watch the film on it, really understand what I'm, but he steps, man.
Hold on, D. Hold on. We got some interesting news. Not in the AM states. Jacobs came in overweight today. Did they already talk about it? Did Jacobs come in overweight today, D? Are you aware of that?
I didn't even hear anything about that, actually, bro. To tell you the truth.
I don't even.
I've been watching that PVC thing leading up for the next week, just kind of seeing what they were talking about. I didn't even see anything about his weight.
Oh, man. And Barker Raider says he came in 173.6. Dan Raphael reported it. Shout out to, Francisco Moreno. I see you. Shout out to Barker Raider. Canelo 169, Jacobs 173.6. So I don't think weight's going to make much of a difference, though, D. I honestly don't think this fight is going to be built off the heavier fighter. It's going to be based off skill.
No. It's going to be based off skill. And see, here's the thing with Jacobs. He's a good boxer. Don't get me wrong. So for anybody that's, saying that, thinking that I'm feeling like Jacobs is not a good boxer, that's not it. Just Jacobs going to have balance issues because when he goes into punch from a distance now, when he goes into punch, he steps and it's obvious, and Canelo is going to pick up on that. And I'm talking about every time he does this. I've actually watched multiple fights, and this is a habit of his. You understand? So that's going to cause him a problem. He's not going to be able to see. My thing is this. Jacobs can win the fight, but he's going to have to do it from the inside. He ain't going to be able to get inside on Canelo, man.
Well, I think, Jacobs, I'm a little bit different from UD on this. I think that Danny Jacobs has a legitimate chance to win the fight. I have it a very close fight. I see Jacobs being
Right.
a hell of a fighter, a hell of a boxer, a hell of a puncher at middleweight. I think outside of Canelo, Danny Jacobs is the second best middleweight. That's just my opinion. Now, I think that there's nobody in the middleweight division that Danny Jacobs cannot beat. And I think Canelo Alvarez is going to be, his toughest test of his career, period. And this is the one fighter that could legitimately knock him out where there's no controversy, there's nothing. He could actually stop him. I think Danny Jacobs is in for the fight of his life. I think Canelo Alvarez is in for a very tough fight too. I think anybody overlooking Danny Jacobs' chance is misguided. Danny Jacobs is coming to fight.
Yeah.
This is what's going to cost Danny Jacobs. We've heard Danny Jacobs say many, many times that, hey, I believe I can knock out Canelo. I believe I can knock out Canelo. And he said this again and again and again. And here's the problem with that. For you to try to knock out Canelo, or for you to even get to that point, you're going to have to take chances. And Canelo Alvarez has a very high IQ. And when you come in there taking those chances, and he's going to get countered like he never got countered in his life.
Countered. He's going to get counted. Yes, he is. Every time he tries to come in. And see, here's the thing. This is what I'm saying about, his chances of Jacobs can hurt Canelo, but Jacobs has to do it from the inside. He's not going to outbox Canelo, and he's not going to, dance around. And he might get off some pretty fat shots, but he's not going to land anything flush from the outside, Nuke. I'm telling you. He's not. Because he steps, and Canelo's going to pick up on that. And when Jacobs tries to come in and get inside on him, Canelo's going to tear his body up. Because another thing about Jacobs that I've noticed watching this film on him, he has terrible body defense.
That is
His
true.
defense to the body is ridiculously terrible. And, the two body specialists in this game right now is Spence and Canelo. Canelo's going to tear his body up when he tries to come in. That's going to deter Jacobs from trying to come in. So if he can't come in, he can't get that clean flush shot. The only way he's going to get a clean flush shot on Canelo is from the inside, grinding out with him on the inside. But Canelo's going to keep him from getting in on the inside with that body work. Because Jacobs' defense on his body work is terrible. It's like he hardly even sees those shots coming, bro. And he's not going to be able to take that from Canelo.
You're right. And here's the thing about Canelo Jacobs. This is how Jacobs could win the fight. If Jacobs can put a lot of pressure on Canelo consistently the entire round and get inside and hurt him, he can win the fight. Right. The problem with that is
there you go.
The problem with that is Canelo's going to counter him countless times coming in. And the other problem is I've seen Danny Jacobs fight Sergey Deverenchenko. I must have watched that fight about 30 times last night, round by round by round.
And I was studying that fight as well.
And one of those rounds, I seen Sergey Deverenchenko stun Danny Jacobs. And yes, I know that these guys are familiar with each other. They sparred over 300 rounds. I get all of that.
Yeah.
But the fact that Sergey, who's a lower tier fighter, and not saying that he's not good, but he's not on the level of Canelo, and he stunned Danny Jacobs. That concerned me.
And you know how? If you watch, you watched it enough, and I'm going to tell you how. When Jacobs came in to punch at him, he stepped, bro. The dude, he recognized it. Deverenchenko recognized it. He stepped, and he missed. Jacobs missed because Deverenchenko knew that punch was coming because of that step. Yep. Now, if somebody like that should recognize that, Canelo's going to eat that up all night, bro. I don't know what people think, but Canelo is a fighter, bro. This dude is smart. I think a lot of people underestimate Canelo ring IQ. They underestimate his IQ. They underestimate his recognition. He recognizes what these boxers are doing. He baits them in. They don't understand, these feints. Canelo he feints well. You understand what I'm saying?
You're right.
And Jacobs responds to all of that. Deverenchenko was saying, and Jacob was responding every time Lomachenko faded at him. He was responding to it. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, let's go back to.
going to utilize all of that.
Well, let's go back to the Selecki fight. When Danny Jacobs first Selecki's not a bad fighter. He's a pretty good fighter, and he's a pretty good counterpuncher. And he countered Jacobs quite a bit in that fight. And I'm like, if Selecki can do it, and Canelo's an elite level counterpuncher, Canelo's going to hurt you at some point. Let's say Jacobs makes it 6-7 rounds without, getting significantly hurt. That damage is going to add up in the second half of the fight. That's why people feel like Jacobs could get stopped. Not because he's not good, just because he's going to take a lot of punishment early. And I don't know if he can hold up late from all of that punishment. And if Canelo goes to the body, it's a wrap.
And that's what I'm telling you. That's what's going to happen. That's just what you called. That's exactly why I can't see Jacobs winning this fight. Because the first 4 or 5, maybe 6, I don't even think it'll go to 6. Not the fight, but as far as Jacobs trying this. But maybe the first 5 rounds, he is going to attempt to get inside. And that's where he's going to get punished. Canelo's going to punish that body, bro. Because listen, all of this stuff that I'm sitting here watching, Canelo's an expert.
Yeah.
I'm just on the outside looking in. If I can notice this and pick this up, you think Canelo's not gonna notice this? He's gonna notice all of this and eat that shit right up, bro.
That's why Canelo's so confident. I noticed Canelo said that, hey, the first few rounds will be difficult, but after that, he feels like he'll adjust to whatever Jacobs doing. Because the first few rounds, I'm gonna let everybody know, if you're Canelo Alvarez, Danny Jacobs fans, and you're watching this fight, just know the first 3 rounds, don't get too invested on what's happened, because Canelo will adjust after those first 3 rounds, and the fight will have a different life of its own starting in the 4th, 5th round. It will be a completely different fight.
Exactly. That's exactly how it's going to play out. The first 3 rounds are going to be Canelo figuring Jacobs. Jacobs is going to probably, in my opinion, Jacobs is going to get the most work done. The best that you're going to see Danny Jacobs. The most hits landed is going to be in the first 3 to 4 rounds. After that, it's Canelo.
And see, this is what Danny Jacobs.
Canelo show.
Now let's think about the unthinkable. What's the unthinkable is it's going into the 6th round. Danny Jacobs and Canelo out. Canelo hasn't made a significant adjustment, or Danny Jacobs keep switching up styles, stances, keep doing different things, and it's a close fight heading into the 6th round or 7th round, and it could go either way. And we're looking at the unthinkable. This could be a decision, and maybe Jacobs could edge it. How does that unthinkable happen? And my perspective on Danny Jacobs is his work rate has to be incredible against Canelo Alvarez. It has to be incredible because, there's times where Canelo against Triple G, he'll take half of a round off. And so he can't take half of a round off. He can't relax. He can't take his foot off the gas, because if Danny Jacobs' work rate is so high, that's going to be a problem. So if the unthinkable could happen, that's why I think Jacobs does have a chance. I don't think he could knock Canelo out, especially from the outside. But maybe his game plan is trying to go to a decision, try to get a rematch, try to get another payday, and say, look, let me box this guy from the outside, go to a decision like Triple G. And, if I lose, I lose, but I can scream robbery. I can say it was a close fight, could have went either way, and then I can turn around and get Canelo rematch in September. That could be a game plan for his.
You know what? I can see that, bro. I can actually see that, but especially with the fans, because if he's able to keep up that level of energy and do exactly what you said, it will be a deceiving fight. But I encourage everyone listening right now, don't be deceived. Go watch the motherfucking fight. Oh, pardon my French. Go watch the fight again and again after it's over with. It's going to be deceiving. But you will see that Canelo's going to clearly win this fight. But it will be one of those deceiving fights, because if he can keep that energy up, like Nick was talking about, yeah, bro, I agree with that. That it'll be one of those kind of fights where, go down to the cars, got the fans thing all 7-5, 8-4 robbery crap. But it's not going to be a robbery. It's not going to be a robbery, because I can guarantee you if it's that type of fight, Danny Jacobs is going to be bouncing around off fucking balance. He's going to be bouncing around off balance, and he's going to be landing these pity-pat shots that don't really matter. But Canelo's going to be landing the flush, clean, hard shots and the hard body shots. So it's going to be one of those things that the season is where, look at all of these punches Danny Jacobs landed. He landed a bunch of mosquito bites, bro.
That's right.
But again, that's what fans see. And and it'll be one of those type things,
And, and let me tell everybody why I thought this was a 50-50 fight. I thought this was a 50-50 fight because I know that Jacobs can box. I already know what Canelo is. I know Canelo's an elite level fighter. But then when I look at Jacobs, I know Jacobs can box. He can switch. He has height and he has reach. Those are all great things to have. But here's the problem with that. Because what happens when Canelo goes, figures out the height and reach advantage and moves past that? Because that's never really been a problem of his against any bigger fighter. So at the end of the day, once he gets past that, what else does Jacobs have to make it an even fight still? He doesn't have enough. And so I think that's why most people see Canelo winning this, outboxing Jacobs, and possibly even stopping him. But I think Jacobs is going to come with everything he has. He knows this is a life-changing, career-changing fight.
Right. Right.
And a lot of people are speaking on him, Jacobs missing weight. I don't think weight's going to have a big significant difference in his fight. I really don't. I mean, maybe you think Jacobs is ballooning up to try to take more punishment from Canelo and say, if I'm a bigger guy, I can absorb more of those shots and I can try to walk through Canelo at some point. You think he's going to do something crazy or reckless like that? Because you remember, this is a career-defining fight. He might have to get out of character here.
Yeah, I don't think, all of this hoopla and this, the fixes on and all of this stupidness, man. I'm not listening to any of that. I think that this fight really, man, you got Hearn and Oscar involved and in the zone, okay? I think this fight is too big and too new for the foolishness. This is something else that I thought about. Because I've thought about this, all the corruption in the sport, whatever. But people got to think about this, man. The zone, they're backed by these guys that's really trying to make this thing take off. I don't think that this is the fight that they're going to have that kind of foolishness in. You understand what I mean?
That's right. And I agree. And let me give a few shout-outs. Shout out to Jose Ramirez, Hesperia, California. Shout out. Salute. Shout out to Joel, L.A., Cali. Shout out. Salute. Francisco Moreno. Salute. We got to show a lot of love to everyone that shows love to us. Jerry, I see you. Shout out and salute to Detroit. We love you too. I appreciate it. Alex Delgado. And let's just keep it pumping. So, we pretty much we both got Canelo winning. So let's move on to the next topic. Let's go into Spence and Crawford. The hold up, the fight. What's going on with that? We don't have to dig too much in it. We got a lot of other fights going on, and the Spence Crawford is not really a huge issue at the moment, but it's just some things people are talking about. You want to give your take on the Spence Crawford, D? We don't have to debate it. We can just give our take.
No, right. This how we're gonna do this because Nuke and I already talked about this. So basically, we just gonna do this like this, man. First and foremost, Nuke and I don't agree. We don't agree at all. We already decided that, but I'm just gonna give my take on it, and then Nuke gonna give his take on it, and then whatever y'all guys just figure out. This is the thing from the fans' perspective. The way I look at it from the fans' perspective and what we want to see and the fight that we want, everybody can say, oh, it's a duck. It's a duck, man, because that's the biggest fight. This is the fight that's defining for both of them and everything. Okay, I get that. From business and from a fighter's perspective, and me personally, I can't call it a duck. And the reason I can't call it a duck is I understand when people say Spence said he's going to do this. What Spence said also before Crawford ever even came to 147 was that he was going to unify. So fighting Sean Porter and Keith Thurman are steps to unifying. Spence is saying that he's going to fight Crawford. I have to believe that. All right? If he doesn't, then of course I'm all wrong. But I have to believe that he's going to fight him. We're going to fight Porter, getting one belt, fight the winner of Pac and Thurman getting another belt. I don't see it as a duck because at the end of the day, it's even better for Crawford. Crawford to get all four belts. For all the Crawford fans that think he'll beat Spence, he'll get all four belts without doing any of the work. Spence is going to fight him. We're going to get that fight. So, it's not a duck. Now, if Spence moves up and, okay, I was all wrong. He ducked the whole time. And I would have no problem saying that was the case. But I think that he's going to fight Porter and either fight Crawford next or fight Porter in the winner of Pac and then fight Crawford after that. And then he'll move up. I don't think that he's going to leave without fighting that big fight. than just blow off disputed at 147. So
Okay.
that's just how I look at it.
Okay, and I can respect your opinion, D, but I have to wholeheartedly disagree. I simply,
Yeah, I
I simply think Errol Spence is ducking Terrence Crawford, because if this was anybody else, if this was Canelo Alvarez and Jamal Charlo, if this was Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder saying, "Hey, I need to unify first, and then I can go fight the guy with the other title." See, because if you look at it, if any of these top fighters have said that, then that would be an issue. That would be where you would bring in, oh, these guys are ducking. But since it's Spence, a lot of guys overlook that. I go based off what Errol Spence says. And Errol Spence Jr., basically, and this is a quote from Fight Hype, where Errol Spence went on a tangent. They asked, "Hey, will the fight ever happen?" And he said, "It's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. But like I said, I've got other people in front of me. You know, I got Sean Porter, I got Keith Thurman, so I got to choose." So basically, and then he also states, "I got people talking about, oh, you ducking Terrence Crawford. It's not that I'm ducking him. I got somebody in front of me that I can fight that'll be easier made in a day." You know what I'm saying? I can easily take that fight. It'll be an easy fight for him to make in a day. And that's Errol Spence Jr.'s argument. And I think that's kind of what your argument is too, that, hey, he can make these fights, Sean Porter and Keith Thurman, much easier than he can a Terrence Crawford fight. I'm assuming that's kind of your argument, and that's Errol Spence's argument. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, yeah, that and the fact that they're not ducking now. You know what I mean? Because before he couldn't get to them. Now it's like it's lined up. You understand what I'm saying? It's in line for him to get to these fights. I agree with that.
Now, here's the problem I have with that. In 2015, he said the same thing. He called out Sean Porter, he called out Keith Thurman, and these guys wouldn't fight him. Why is it taking this many years to get these fights, and they were all on the same side of the street? But all of a sudden, when Terrence Crawford comes into the picture, now we can make these fights. Now we can get these fights. But it's taken you 4 damn years to make these fights. But now you're starting to try to get really pushed, and Al Heyman is pushing. Errol Spence is really pushing. Now these fights are possible. But 4 years ago, they weren't. But you were all on the same side of the street.
4 years ago, no?
Hold on.
4 years ago, though.
Hold on.
You know what I'm saying?
Hold on. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm saying. So you say you want to fight everybody. You say you only want to fight the champions. You say you want to unify. You say you want to be a star. You want big paydays. There's no bigger payday in the welterweight division right now than Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence showdown, period. Because there's no fight that anybody else wants to see. If everybody knows that if Spence fights Manny, they know that's a one-sided fight. It's another a fighter that's out of his prime, that's very small. You're not looking at that as being a huge fight because the outcome is somewhat decided. People turn, you know what makes a super fight? Fights that people don't know who's going to win. Fights that people are saying, you know what, this could really go either way. Fights that they think are competitive. Those are the super fights. Those are the fights that people pay for. And that's what makes Bud Crawford versus Errol Spence intriguing. Because either you really believe Bud's skills are going to beat Spence, or you believe Spence power, size, and everything is going to beat Bud. You know, that's what makes that fight intriguing. And whoever wins that fight is going to be a superstar. They're going to be a superstar. And every fight after that, they're going to have big paydays and going to be on pay-per-view. Because once they're going to grab all of the fans. The fan pool is divided between these two fellas. The fan pool is going to come together for the winner. That's really what's going to happen. The fan pool is going to come together for the winner. Even if you hate the guy, you're still going to order the pay-per-view like you did Floyd, and you're going to watch to pay to see him lose. So ultimately, no matter who wins, boxing wins. And so that's why I think Spence Crawford needs to happen now, because if they fight each other now, then if they fight Danny Garcia, that's a pay-per-view. If they fight Sean Porter, that's a pay-per-view. If they fight Keith Thurman, that's a pay-per-view. All these fights are top level, elite level pay-per-views now, and everybody's hanging on their every word. So why not make a superstar right now, decide who's the best, and watch these guys just keep ascending. Why delay what everyone wants to see? Why delay that? Because, you know, when De La Hoya fought Floyd Mayweather, that's the fight that people wanted to see. That's the fight that made Floyd a true boxing star. He was on pay-per-view before that, but it didn't mean much. But after he beat De La Hoya, that's what took Floyd to the next level. This is why this fight needs to happen for Spence and Crawford. Take one of these guys to the next level. We can see, and that's why there's no delay. The only reason anyone would delay this fight, because even Al Heyman's a smart, brilliant man. He knows the ramifications. The reason why he wants to delay this fight is only one reason. It's because he doesn't believe that Errol Spence Jr. can pull it off. That's why. And he wants to give him every advantage he can. And one of those advantages is him moving to 154 and then calling out Terrence Crawford, come meet me at 154. Something like either say, come meet me at 154, or he takes a fight with another fighter. It's really that simple. It's really that simple.
Let me ask you this, Luke. Let me ask you this, because I understand that logic. Trust me, that's the dumb shit that Floyd Mayweather used to do, you know, and I get that. But let me ask you this. I agree with you, that is the biggest fight right now, right? But how big is Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence for all 4 belts, bro? That fight is way bigger. And another thing, just like you said, you know that Al Heyman is about money. So he should be looking at it from that angle too. That's an even bigger super fight when they're both fighting for all 4 belts. You understand where I'm coming from?
See, but this is why that makes no sense, D. And I'm gonna break it down for you. This is why that makes zero sense. Yeah, that'll be a big money fight. Hold on.
All right, go ahead. I'll let you break it down, but it's logic to that, because I understood what you said about if they fight now. You understand what I'm saying? That all of those other fights are pay-per-view, so to speak. Right?
Correct.
I somewhat disagree with the draw on those fights, though. I get your logic, because whoever wins the fight now is the super champ. But nobody thinks that any of those guys can beat Bud or Spence right now. Nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks Thurman can beat them. Nobody thinks Porter can beat them. Nobody really thinks Pat can beat them.
And so hold on. But D, the problem with that is no one thought that, half of the guys that fought Floyd could beat him. He was favored in the majority of his fights. The point is, once you have a Floyd, you have a star level type of fighter to attain to. That's what sells. You have a certified bona fide star, and everyone's taking their best shot. That's really what it is. Everybody's taking their best shot.
I feel like if Crawford wins that fight, your logic will be 100% correct. If Spence wins that fight, I can't see it.
Why?
I can't see it.
Why?
Okay, and I'll tell you why. Okay, if Crawford wins that fight, here you go. I see a whole lot of fans crossing over to Crawford.
Correct.
You got fans like me. I already like Crawford. The thing with Spence is in that hated lane, bro. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but he is in that Canelo lane where it doesn't matter how much you do right now. Those fans are going to find another reason to not like this man.
Hold on.
That is a fact, bro. I don't care if he beats Crawford.
Hold on, D. I'm going to get to your point, but there's somebody I have to address real quick. Willie Williams states, after the Crawford fight, then what, IBFP? No one will pay for the other fights that they all expect Spence to win. So let's put it like this. Okay, good question, Willie. And so let me explain to you why. So you're assuming that Spence would win. I think Crawford would win. But let's say Spence won, Crawford won. It really doesn't matter. They would all expect the winner of that fight to beat all these guys. Do you think Sean Porter, Errol Spence is going on pay-per-view? Do you think that's a pay-per-view fight right now?
Yeah, it is going on pay-per-view.
If that goes on pay-per-view, that will be a massive flop. That will be a flop. He will not sell 300, 400,000 pay-per-views. That was Mikey Garcia selling those pay-per-views. Let's be honest. Errol Spence is not going to sell 300,000 pay-per-views by himself. He needs an opponent. And Sean Porter has no fan base. None. He has 3 guys. And they're divided between Ohio and Las Vegas. He has no other fans.
And Spence chose Spence, which I think is a dumb choice, but Spence chose to have the damn thing in New York. I think his better chance would be to have it back in Texas again.
See, I thought
he has a bigger fan base, and then he obviously got a whole bunch of Mexican fans after that Mikey fight. He had some before the Mikey fight, but choosing to have it in New York, I think, was a terrible idea. And I have to agree with you on that, Nuke. I don't think that fight's going to be able to do those numbers. I wouldn't say that.
Exactly. So, but let's say Spencer Crawford wins, and then they fights Porter, and then you have a superstar, that fight's going to sell more. It's going to become more intriguing because now the conversation switches the best versus the best, or can anyone challenge this guy? Can anyone beat this guy? That builds up the drama in boxing and makes it something special.
This is where you're not hearing me. That's the truth, no, but this is where you're not hearing me. Bro, they ran from this man for 4 years. If he beats up Crawford, they're not going to fight him, bro. They're going to find every reason to run. They're going to make him move to 154 first. If Spence beats Crawford first, this is my whole thing with it. I'm not disagreeing with a lot of the things you say because it's logical, okay? The things you say are 100% logical. But my thing is this. Like, he has them right there in his hand now. If he goes and beats up Crawford, we know that they're both a boy. Sean Porter doesn't even mention Crawford. And all Keith Thurman can do is find ways to discredit Crawford, but he doesn't talk about fighting him. No, he's too small, he's got to do this, he ain't did this, he ain't shown this, but he doesn't talk about fighting him. And Sean Porter doesn't even mention him.
Well,
he already ran away from Spence for 4 years.
Hold on. Let's put it like this. You're right. They both ran away from Spence for 4 years, and now when Terrence Crawford comes in the picture, they run to Spence but run away from Crawford. And we still don't know if we still don't know if Keith Thurman will face Errol Spence yet. We still don't know. We think he might.
We don't know if Keith Thurman going to beat Pac.
We don't know that.
Pacquiao won't run from the fight.
I think Pacquiao Thurman is 50-50. I think that's a close fight. What do y'all think? Put that in the chat.
I think you're right about that, but we do know this, or it's a high possibility of this. What's up, JB?
What's up, JB?
Possibility of this. If he goes in there and beats Porter, and you have to agree with this, Luke, they ran away from him for 4 years, bro. Do you think that they're going to be rushing to take that fight?
Well, let me answer.
Smith until he gets too big and go up to 54, and then he'll never be able to unify at 147. Right now, he has that opportunity locked in.
Hold on. So let's go ahead and break this down a little bit more in depth. So if you have Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence, and you guys are leaning on the assumption that Errol Spence will win that fight, I honestly think that if you're looking at the fight, honestly, most people would say that Terrence Crawford has the better advantages, the better skill set. He's the guy that would win the fight. I just don't see how anybody could think that Spence could beat Terrence Crawford if they're not just a fan of Spence, because I just see too many skills.
It's the same scenario of what people thought. And I'm not saying that you're right or wrong.
Sure.
I'm just saying it's the same scenario of what people thought of Mikey versus Spence. I'm not saying that Mikey's anything like Crawford. I'm not saying that their skills are comparable. I'm just saying the thought process of the fans are exactly the same.
Well, let me break that. Hold on. Well, let's break that down. Now, the Mikey in Spence, I had that as a 50-50 fight. I had that as an even fight. Clearly, I was wrong. Clearly. But a Spence and Crawford fight is completely different. I was right about one thing. I said Spence and Mikey would go 12 rounds regardless. Everybody said I was crazy. Everybody said Spence would knock him out. And Mikey went the full distance. I'll say 99.9% of every boxing fan said Spence was stopping Mikey. I said it's not going to happen. I'm the one who broke that. So then when I come back to this fight, I look at something. Mikey Garcia is a few inches shorter than Terrence Crawford, so Terrence Crawford has a height advantage over Mikey that will play a huge role in the Spence fight. And not only that, Terrence Crawford also has a 2-inch reach advantage over Errol Spence. So he will be able to hit Spence from the outside. He will be able to move around and maneuver. He has great elite level footwork. There's still depths that we have not seen Errol Spence travel to, and only someone the caliber of Terrence Crawford can take him there. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. So I think it'll be a brilliant fight. I think it'll be a masterful fight. But I think that looking at everybody and everything, you have to give Terrence Crawford the edge. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. You guys may give him another edge. But I think that, honestly, if these guys fight, and you say that Sean Porter would run away from, Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence after that fight, I don't think they'd run away from Terrence Crawford once he beats Errol Spence, in my opinion. Because Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter have actually...
It's not about Crawford. I don't think that they'll run away from Crawford.
Yeah,
it's not about Crawford right here.
Well, how would it not be about Crawford? Crawford was the only...
I don't think that they would. I think that I agree with you there. I'm saying that we got to stay on point. The point is Spence.
What? How is the hold on? So you're saying the point of Spence? So that would be saying that Spence is the bigger star or the better fighter?
No, if Spence beats Crawford, we're assuming that win now. All of this is assuming on the win. But if Spence goes in there, and you gotta believe that Spence, what did he tell Crawford when they looked at each other face to face? I mean, I know what you said about the ease of this, but he still looked at Crawford in his face and told him, "You know I'll stop your little ass."
Hold on.
Spence thinks that.
Hold on, he did say that, but let me rebut that right now.
Hold on, let me finish this point. Just let me finish
Okay.
this point right quick, man.
Okay.
If Spence's confidence is of that he will beat Crawford, then we have to go on the assumption that he wins this fight, at least the way he's looking at it. You understand what I'm saying? We have to go on that assumption. He's not thinking he's going to lose to Crawford. He's thinking he's going to go in there and beat Crawford. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
So if he goes in there now and beats Crawford, we're thinking from the mind of Spence now. And these guys have ran away from me for 4 years, and I don't beat who's supposed to be the new boogeyman. They're going to keep running until I go to 54. They're going to keep running away now until I go to 54, and then I'll never be able to get off 4 belts.
Okay, so
Again, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm just offering another perspective. Remember, we started out this way.
okay,
I'm not disagreeing with a lot of the things you say because we agree on a lot of those things.
okay. So
You got to look at it from two sides.
okay, hold on, D. Let me rebut a little bit. As far as when Spence told Terrence Crawford to his face, "Hey, I'll stop you because you're too small." That's funny that he would say that, but then in that same time, 30 seconds after that, he turns around and says, "Oh, I got to fight all these guys first. I got to fight all." So Terrence Crawford say, "Well, fight me. I got a belt." Because remember, bring it back. Errol Spence, when Terrence Crawford moved up in the division, oh, he's not proven at 147. Then he said he needs to go get a belt, and then we can make that happen. He got a belt. Now he can't make it happen. So therefore, Spence is running from Crawford. Spence is not wanting to engage with Crawford seriously. He's not wanting to negotiate a fight. He's not wanting to make that fight happen, knowing that it'll be a bigger payday, knowing that him beating Crawford would make him a pound for pound fighter right now. Most people have Crawford ranked 1 or 2 pound for pound, or even 3, but at least top 3. And if Errol Spence beats Terrence Crawford, he's top 3 pound for pound, no doubt. No one can deny him anymore. So you're telling me that the biggest fight in the welterweight division with Errol Spence and Sean Porter, that would then be a pay-per-view at that point. That fight would then be legitimate. That fight could technically at that point be held in Jerry's World in Dallas. That fight actually means something now. It doesn't mean anything before he fights Terrence Crawford. But if he fights Crawford first and beats him, now all of his fights have meaning. That's the problem. You're trying to wait out Crawford is hurting yourself. The PBC model does not work because eventually this is one thing that most people are missing. I think Errol Spence can beat Sean Porter. I really do. But you realize why Sean Porter is interested in fighting Spence now, don't you? It's because he just seen him go 12 rounds with Mikey Garcia. He's seen him go 12 rounds with Mikey Garcia and realized that Errol Spence didn't even want to engage with a little guy. He's seen him that he couldn't even stop a little guy. So that's only made Sean Porter more confident. I don't know where Keith Thurman is. I think Keith Thurman has the skills to beat Errol Spence, but at the same time, I don't think he has the chin. His chin is so suspect at this point, getting hurt to the body against Luis Collazo, getting rocked and almost stopped against Teofimo Lopez. I have no faith in Keith Thurman. He has to get past Manny Pacquiao impressively for me to ever believe in Keith Thurman. And I don't even think he'll do that. I mean, that's a 50-50 fight, and if Manny connects, it could be over.
I think Manny could get. I think Manny could get at Thurman the way he's looking right now. And this is only one fight outside of Teofimo Lopez, so I don't have high confidence in Thurman. But I have to say something about Sean Porter's, which you said his idea. He might have that idea that okay, he couldn't even stop a little Mikey, right? Okay. I can understand that. But if Sean Porter is going in there with that mindset, he's fucking foolish. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. Because, okay, he couldn't stop Mikey. But did he have any hesitation going inside with a way bigger Brook?
Okay.
He went inside and grinded out with a way bigger Brook, so why would he be afraid to go inside and grind it out?
Well, hold on. That's a question you have to ask Errol Spence, because every time because he should have really mowed through. If Mikey Garcia was the fighter that people said he was, that Spence is too big, too strong, he came in and grinded with Brook, who was weight drained, who was coming off a knockout loss and an injury. Of course he went out to Brook because he thought Brook was food. Brook has no defense. Brook was easy to hit, and Brook still arguably won the first 6 rounds. There's no excuse. Had Brook body and eye not broke down, After the 6th round, that fight could have went either way. That could have been Brooks and still the champion.
That's true. That's true. But let me ask you this: what difference is Porter? Porter's the same. Porter's the same. He's easy to get to. He's easy to hit, and he can run in there on him just like he ran in on Brooks.
I will tell you this. When I saw Sean Porter versus Danny Garcia that last fight, that changed. You saw that Sean Porter took a completely different approach to Danny Garcia than he did Keith Thurman, than he did Kell Brook. He was getting in and out of the pocket. He was not trying to get hit as much. He was trying to protect himself. And I believe that was preparation for a showdown with Errol Spence, not wanting to take too much damage. And I believe that's what he's been working on in the gym. I believe that's why he's been working with Barry Hunter, who trained Lamont Peterson. These guys know what's going on. These guys see they see a style. Once you see a guy fight so much.
Oh, that's true, but how good did that work out for him against you guys, bro? Not at all.
I don't care
what you've been working on. That shit ain't working, bro.
Hold on, but here's the difference.
Running inside and trying to muscle a guy.
Hold on, but here's the difference. We know that, but we know Ugas and Spence are two different levels boxing ability wise. Ugas is a better boxer purely than Errol Spence. Spence is a stronger fighter than Ugas.
We don't agree on that.
We don't have to, but I think Ugas is a better pure boxer than Spence. That doesn't mean he's a better fighter. That means he can box better. He's more versatile in his approach and his attack.
But I hear you. If you think that, then I hear you. But I don't agree that Ugas is a better boxer than Spence. Not at all, bro. I don't agree.
Think about it. Do you think that Ugas would have lost the first 6 rounds against Kell Brook with no defense? I don't see that from Ugas. He's going to employ defense.
I'm not sure because it's different styles.
Exactly. Styles make fights. Spence does not have a defensive approach enough style to protect himself.
But Sean Porter is small. He's not lengthy. He's small. Spence has some of those advantages over him as far as length that he had over Mike.
That's not going to make a difference with Sean Porter. Let me tell you why.
Hold on. Sean Porter is not lengthy. So I'm not saying that the size and the power is different from Mikey. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about the length. The length. You understand? This is why he couldn't do what he wanted to do to you guys because of the length.
Hold on. Let me address Willie Williams real quick because he's trying to troll a little bit. He's trying to troll a little bit. So let me just check you real quick, Willie. And so this is how I know you must be new to boxing. You might be a casual, so you're just starting to understand boxing. So I'll be happy to break it down. And he says IBFP was Jose Benavidez a broken fighter. Jose Benavidez came off 2 knockout wins. Kell Brook came off a knockout loss. Done. But in regards to your point, D, what you said was at the end of the day that the height and reach advantage, some of the same things that hurt Mikey will probably hurt Porter. The difference is Sean Porter has already fought the Keith Thurman, and that was a close fight. He already fought the Kell Brook, and that was a close fight. So at the end of the day, when you look at it like this, we've seen Sean Porter go in there with guys who are just as big, just as strong. And not only that, Sean Porter had beat Oslander Usyk in the amateurs. Sean Porter is a guy that's rough and rugged for his size. The only problem with Sean Porter is that his chin can be suspect. And because his chin is suspect, that's why he's been working on getting in and out of the pocket. Because I believe he was dropped against Usyk. He was dropped against, Adrian Broner. And it's very likely against Errol Spence, he could possibly be dropped in that fight. But if he can get up from the drop, like we've seen people get up from it with Errol Spence, and some people not even get stopped like Mikey, at the end of the day, we believe that, Sean Porter can go the distance with Errol Spence and possibly edge a decision. I think Spence would beat him on the cards because the physical advantages might be too much for Sean Porter, but I think Sean Porter has a legitimate chance. I'm not going to say a good chance like that. I'm going to say about 70-30. 70-30. I think it's a 70-30 in Spence's favor. I think that Sean Porter has because Sean Porter has never been blown out in any fight. Sean Porter has come to fight every time. So if Sean Porter gets stopped, I'd respect him because I could see at the time of the stoppage, he probably won some good rounds. That's all I'm saying. Because I think that he's a good fighter.
I agree with the 2 fights, but you got to think about it. The fight with Brook, the fight with Thurman, they were good fights. They were close fights. But the point is he lost. And Spence, the fight with Brook, he don't have the one in Thurman to compare, but the fight with Brook was also a close fight, but he won.
But hold on, but the Brook that he fought wasn't the same Brook. The Brook that we keep ignoring. We can't ignore the fact the Brook that he fought was a Brook that was coming off an eye surgery and a knockout loss and being weight drained. That Brook is sick. Is not the prime Brook. The Brook that was looking in the peak shape of his career fighting Sean Porter. That's not the same Brook. That's not the same Brook. We got to be honest about that. But let's move on a little bit. Let's speak on AJ. Let's speak on what's going on AJ and Andy Ruiz. A lot of people have been throwing a lot of shade at Andy Ruiz, saying he's trash, he looks flabby, he's out of shape. And I think that those are people that just don't know boxing. Because if you know boxing, you know Andy Ruiz is a very good boxer. You know he comes to fight. I think he's a better fighter than Jarrell Big Belly Miller. I think that he's going to put up a much better fight than Jarrell Big Belly Miller would put up. I think Andy Ruiz has quick hands, he has power, he has pop. And you know what? He's deceptively good. And, you know, you can't judge a guy from the outside and tell how really good it is. And Andy Ruiz, I believe, has a bit of dog in him. I believe if that fight with Joseph Parker would have been in his home state in California or somewhere like that, he would have won that fight. But I still pick Anthony Joshua to beat Ruiz, to stop Ruiz. But I think Ruiz will come to fight. He will be a good competitor. But I got AJ ultimately stops him probably within the first 6 rounds. What do you think?
Yeah. This fight is interesting. Of course, we got to pick AJ to win. I got to pick AJ to win. I don't care what anybody do. I mean, if they think Ruiz has a chance to come in there upset AJ, you know, more power to him. I'm not sure, bro. One thing I have noticed about Ruiz, I've been doing a little film study on him. I didn't know that this guy punches as fast as he does. You know, he has really good hand speed.
That's right.
Power, you know.
That work rate.
Yeah, and a high work rate. So I can see him giving AJ problems. Has Ruiz ever been put down?
No. Never been stopped. Only lost once to Joseph Parker on the cards. And a lot of people felt like that could have went the other way.
Wow. This is gonna be a pretty exciting fight. I don't know. I mean, AJ packs a lot of punch, you know.
Hold on, Eric Anthony. I'm not saying he has elite level power, but he does have power. He does have pop. He does get knockouts, so he does have power. I'm not saying he's the same hitter as, you know, Anthony Joshua, the same hitter as Deontay Wilder, but he does have pop.
Right.
And, you know, anybody that denies that clearly doesn't know Andy Ruiz. That's just my opinion on it.
He has pop. No. What I watched at least 6 fights of his really good. You know, really thoroughly. I want to do more of a look at him. You know, like I said, always the week before the fight. But from what I see from him now, he actually looks pretty good. I didn't know anything, not too much about him. I've seen some of his fights, but I didn't pay any attention to Andy Ruiz.
Okay.
Of course, I've been watching Joshua the whole time, but he looks better than I thought. You know, I just thought that it was just an exciting fight, a good replacement, but I didn't know much about it. It's pretty good, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a good scrap.
I still pick Joshua, but he just looks good, man. I can't really call what round. I think Joshua's going to, you know, he has the experience and the skill and the power to pull it out. But
yeah. I just don't. Ruiz is just not defensively responsible enough to beat Anthony Joshua through 12 rounds.
Right, yeah. I think that power, he's going to put him down, man. I think this might be his first time getting put down because he can't be taking those hits. Like, that's one thing I've seen him in these fights I've been watching. He takes some shots, and, you know, and he can't be taking those shots like that from Joshua. He's going to hit that damn cannon.
That's right.
I'll touch you again.
Now, I'm starting something new with you guys, with all the subscribers. Now, I'm basically going to have you guys email us audio clips. I just want to see if you guys like this idea or not. And it's basically just to give you guys a voice. If you email me an audio clip and you can rant on anything you want, I'll post it, make it into a podcast. And, you know, you can get your voice out. So if you feel like I'm being biased on something or you feel like some guy's not getting enough shine, go ahead and send me an audio clip. I'll make it into a podcast. And then we can just get the fans' response on that, too. You know, we can just be more inclusive, get everybody involved. It's just an idea I'm floating that we could maybe try it out. What do you think about that, D?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea, bro.
You know, just to give everybody a voice. Oh, Flame On. You can call in, brother.
Flame On. How you doing?
Flame On. I see you, brother. Flame On. Shout out to Flame On. Flame On. Go ahead and call in, brother. I'm going to add you in. I can add you in.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Yeah, well, no, I think that's an excellent idea, bro. Yeah, the fans, you're just body one. I know a whole lot of times I wanna. What's up there, Flame on? Hey, what's up, D?
Hey, you guys can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear y'all. I'm feeling good, but y'all good?
Oh yeah, we good,
Yeah,
Flavon. Speak on it, my brother.
Y'all was talking about this Crawford Spence thing, man, and this Thurman. Okay, I'm gonna start with Thurman. I ain't gonna say it was Ruiz. He looked bad. I mean, they say fighters have a bad night, but this is how I think it's gonna go down. It might be controversial, but I think I'm gonna say Thurman might stop Pacquiao, man.
Woo.
I don't know. It could be Marquez again. You know what I'm saying? But I can see Pacquiao winning the decision, but that would mess up the Thurman Spence fight. I really think Thurman is PBC's like golden child on the low. They're making it like it's Spence, but I really believe they come on, think about it. They let this guy sit out 2 years, not defend his belt. They didn't strip him. He comes back, fights Teofimo Lopez, and lands a Pacquiao fight on pay-per-view, just like that, with no effort. While you got Spence, even though Spence ain't had the best competition, you know what I mean, he has been a little active, like 2 fights a year, but you got a fighter that hasn't fought in 2 years. And he lands a pay-per-view fight with Pacquiao, which is gonna like build his name kind of like how the Mikey Garcia did the Spence thing, because I mean Spence got a lot of fans off of that. So that could be their super fight, the reason why they won't fight Crawford right now too. Because if they fight Crawford right now, they know he's gonna lose. Spence gonna lose that fight.
Woo.
You know what I'm saying? That's just my opinion. He's not gonna win the fight. Listen.
Dude, I like that.
Listen. Y'all can say what y'all want. He did more than Spence did. Y'all can say, he fought Jeff Horn. Look what Jeff Horn did to Pacquiao. He bullied Pacquiao. When Jeff Horn had that WBO belt, Spence wanted to fight Jeff Horn. When Pacquiao had that WBO belt, Spence wanted to fight Pacquiao.
Woo!
Crawford get the WBO belt, he don't want to fight him right now. You see what I'm saying? So
preach.
They know he's a threat. His second fight, Jose Benavidez, y'all can say, he was one-legged, whoop-the-whoop. Okay, he knocked out 2 other fighters before that. Plus, he was a bigger man. Plus, I mean, compare him to Algieri. Who do you think will win in a Jose Benavidez-Algieri fight?
Jose Benavidez stops Algieri.
Algieri easy.
Yep.
He'll stop Algieri easy.
Yep.
Jose Benavidez will stop Peterson easy.
I think so too.
Jeff Horn will wash Peterson. Jeff Horn probably will wash Brooks.
Yeah.
Because see, when he came up, Jeff Horn might beat him. He's too big. Then when Crawford washes him, Jeff Horn's a bum. Jose Benavidez, he kind of big. When he watched him, like, listen.
True.
Khan.
Facts.
They asked Spence a long time ago, would he fight Khan? What did he say? Khan needs to fight Brooks. Khan needs to fight Brooks. A lot of people thought Khan was going to beat Crawford.
True.
Crawford watched him too, made him quit, basically made him quit. Now everybody, Khan, woo-the-woo. And then Khan's a PBC fighter. Jacobs is a PBC fighter fighting on the zone. So there's really no excuse why the fight can't happen.
Thank you.
They can't risk him losing to Crawford right now. Maybe later on, but in my opinion, he'll probably move up to 54 before that fight's not going to happen. Now, play on. That's what everybody keeps saying. So let me ask you and Luke this, right? Because Luke actually agreed with you, play on. But let me ask you this. I'll ask both of y'all this. All y'all keep saying that. What happens when Spence beats Crawford beats Porter, beats whoever wins the third fight, and he does fight Crawford, then what do y'all think? Was it a dub? All of this in the world. But no, I'm talking about right now. All of this is y'all talking right now. If that's what he, hold on, hear me out. If that's exactly what he does, if he don't get those belts, and I know that you heard what I was saying earlier, his idea is that these guys are not running now. Let me get these belts now and then go fight Crawford. If he does that, then that proves exactly what I say to be 100% correct. What do you say? Was he ducking? If he goes in was he ducking? Or was he trying to unify at 147?
Okay, in a way, it could be perceived as kind of ducking, but
I already said it was perceived as ducking. See, I said that when I first started my initial comment. I said that it's going to be perceived as ducking by the fans because we want this fight. Didn't I say that, Nils?
Okay.
Did I say that perception's going to be there?
You did, and I want to answer your. Hold on, D. I want to answer your question, but first thing I got to read what Jessica Cardenia says, and she said that Obama phone whistling. She getting on you, D. But let me just break this out a little bit. It's still ducking. And this is why. Because if I'm the type of guy that want to take 3 fights before I take another fight or 2 fights or whatever, it's not a tune-up fight. He's an active fighter just like Crawford. And it's still a unification. You act like fighting Terrence Crawford is not a unification. Then you're still unifying.
It's about the 4 belts, Luke.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. No. You know why it's not about the... Hold on. You know why it's not about the 4 belts? Because if it was, Crawford belt is equal to every other belt. It's equal to every other belt.
Their belt is easy to get, and
Hold on. Which belt is worth more? Terrence Crawford. Hold on, D. Terrence Crawford's belt is worth more than anybody else's belt in the welterweight division because Terrence Crawford belt makes you pound for pound, gives you the career high payday, and makes you a superstar. If you take his belt, if you beat Terrence Crawford, you're a superstar. You get a huge payday. You're on pay-per-view. There's no one else in welterweight division that's going to give you that. No one. And you're pound for pound.
I agree with that, but comes in. Flame on. I agree with that, but where the fuck is my friends? Where the heck is Crawford going? Where is he going?
Hold on. It doesn't. Hold on.
He's not going anywhere.
Hold on. See, but that's the problem, D. You trying to make a business move out of this and try to say, oh, well, Crawford, he's not going to go anywhere. Where's Spence going? Is he planning on moving up in a hurry? What is he doing? Why not fight the best and become a superstar overnight if you're that good?
But y'all keep saying Spence is going to move out, but Spence said see, this is the thing. Y'all, the fans, Crawford fans, and the people that are basically saying that Spence is ducking, y'all are the only ones saying that Spence is going to move up before he fights Crawford. Spence is saying that he's going to get those 2 belts and don't fight Crawford. He's going to move up.
Hold on, Spence did. No, Spence did say he's going to move up.
Hold on, bro. Let me finish. Spence just did an interview. The dude asked him, well, can't say that you're going to move up before he said, man, if I get to 154 and move up, I'll move up there. But I'm fighting Crawford. That's what he said, bro.
Hold on, D. D, little Chris.
Before Crawford even came to 47, and there was mentioning Crawford coming to 47, he already has plans to move up to 54.
Yeah, he does, but he has plans to fight Crawford too, bro.
When Jamel goes up, and when Herb goes up, that's probably when Spence gonna go up. And I don't see. Listen, if the fight don't happen in a year, it's a duck. I mean, I understand. You know what I'm saying? The WBC is easy to get, but that's the whole point what we're trying to make. You claim y'all gave this man this 50-man persona, bro. Nobody don't want to fight him. Everybody's scared of him. Nobody want no smoke. You got a dude come up, grab a belt. As soon as he gets the belt, he won't shoot. You're a boogeyman. You have to take that fight. Now it's businessman. So it's bullshit to me. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole point I'm trying to make.
I agree.
Let me correct him right quick. Hey, Flame on. Let me correct you right quick. Y'all ain't did anything. I never overhyped Spence. Not from day one, bro.
No, I mean,
I know, I feel what you're saying, but I'm defending him right now. Well, let's not get
he
twisted.
said that. At the conversation, he said, I'm the boogeyman of the division. He told me,
I feel all that. But remember we had the last live show, and you was on it with us. And he knows his sports fan. 10th round TKO. What did I say? No, I'm not going for that nonsense. Okay, so
Yeah.
I want one of these fanboys overhyping Spence's power. He'll knock you out and all of this and stop you and all this. I was never on that. So I'm not. I feel what you're saying coming from that perspective. But you gotta understand.
Hold on, D.
To me, I was never coming from that perspective.
Hold on, D. I got it. Hold on, D. I got to speak on this. JB says Spence put Terrence Crawford number 2 pound for pound. So why isn't he going after someone that he put above him?
Listen,
JB knows boxing. Thank you, JB.
dude, I am not listening to JB.
JB.
Knows JB, my guy. JB, my guy. Everybody knows JB is the biggest CrossFit fan on the North American side of everything. Listen, bro, JB.
JB speaking facts.
JB is 1,000% CrossFit. He's not gonna get nothing else but CrossFit. What's up, JB? Yeah.
JB love keeping it a buck.
I'm messing with y'all too, man. I'm done with that.
Okay. Hold on.
I'm messing with y'all too,
Okay,
man.
fellas. Hold on. Oh, now we have rapid fire. So everyone go ahead and put in your questions in the comment. And so we'll spend 5 minutes. And if you got a question for me, D, or Flame On for us to answer, go ahead and put it in the comments about the Canelo, Jacobs, about anything. Put it in the comments right now.
Hey, your boy missed weight, man.
Oh, yeah. Jacobs missed weight. Me and D talked about it. We don't think it's going to be a huge thing, though. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Flame On?
It's obviously trying to have the same advantage he had against Triple G. So if he gets stopped, to me, it's gonna make him look even worse.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because you obviously need an advantage. You know, Eddie Hearn's gonna pay your time for missing weight, but if you don't win this fight, you get dropped or anything like that, it's a bad look to me.
Yeah. And if you guys got any questions about Jacobs, anybody, put your stuff in the comments. We're reading them. We're doing a rapid fire. And Flame On, who do you got? Canelo, Jacobs, and why?
Come on, man. Canelo, one of my top 5 favorite fighters. So you know what I mean. I'm gonna go with Canelo late. I don't think it's gonna be easy. I think he's gonna struggle like the first 2 or 3 rounds, but he's gonna figure Jacobs out mid-round, work that body. And I think it's going to end by a body shot. I think he's going to break it straight up.
Right. Well, I'm almost 100% with you on Flame On except for, taking him out with the body shot. But I said a lot of that earlier. I said 3 to 4 rounds, that's going to be Jacob's chance to shine. But Canelo just going to be figuring him out. And after that, he's going to take him out. He's going to keep him away from him with those body shots. Danny Jacobs can only hurt Canelo from the inside, man. He can't hurt him from the outside. And Canelo's going to keep him outside with those body shots because Danny Jacobs can't protect that well. So he ain't going to be, he's not going to be interested in running up in there on Canelo. He's going to try to dance around and, try to box him from the outside, but that's not going to work. Canelo's going to counter him all night.
That's true.
Counter him all night long.
That's true. And I'll tell you this, on the undercard, they got a guy named Virgil Ortiz, one of the up-and-comers. I did a video about him a while back. Watch out for that guy's fight tonight. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be real interesting. Gus Aguino says Canelo by late TKO. So it looks like, I think if the fight ends in a stoppage, I think that it's going to end about, anywhere between, I'm going to say the 8th and the 10th round. But I think it could honestly go to distance. I think Danny Jacobs may go in and try to give everything to try to knock out Canelo and end up getting knocked out himself, overextending himself. Or he could just play. He could play defensive. He could play defensive and try to run all night and just try to get a decision and try to beg for a rematch.
Did y'all see this report about Oh, never mind. Yeah,
What's up with Teofimo?
Oh, Teofimo. Teofimo has a fight coming up. And so now the Teofimo has a fight coming up against an undefeated fighter, Mayoshi Natakni, on July 19th on ESPN Plus. So Teofimo Lopez is trying to get lined up to become a mandatory, and so he can eventually get a shot at the belt, and then he can go ahead and take on Loma. That's a good route to do it. Teofimo just have to show and prove. He's going to have a chance against Loma. I'm not saying he can beat Loma. I think Lomachenko wins. I just think that Teofimo's going to have a chance because he has knockout power.
Why is his team not why is his team not, if they feel confident? This is my thing with Teofimo, because he's my guy. You already know that. Like, I'm always putting Teofimo to take over up everywhere on every site. Okay, but I don't understand why his team is not going after the Tommy fight, because that would be better, bro.
It would.
He goes and takes that belt. You understand what I'm saying? Then he comes to Loma with a belt. You understand? Why are they not?
They're taking this.
I think this fight would line him up for comedy.
Yeah. It would. So this fight is lining him up for a mandatory shot at the title against the title holder. So that's what this fight is for. It's basically for the mandatory position.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's all it is. And then I'm looking at Teofimo, and I'm like, I don't know if Vasil Lomachenko is the way to go, but I'm like, you know, if he's in a win-win situation, because if he beats Vasil Lomachenko, he's an instant superstar. If he loses, like most people believe he will, like I think he will, if he loses, then he's still young, he's still talented, and he can easily come back and overcome having a loss to Vasil Lomachenko, and just, you know, move up to 140 and do damage there.
I think the boys should keep trying to. I would tell you like this, man. Teofimo was my guy, but I like Regis too, right?
Regis is.
Man, I don't think he can beat Regis Prograis. I think he'll have a hell of a problem with Josh Taylor. To tell you the truth.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys.
Know what I mean?
I don't know if you guys know this, but Regis Prograis was calling out Bud Crawford right after Bud moved up to 147, and you know, and honestly, when I look at that, I think that's not good for Regis, because I think Bud stops Regis Prograis. I don't think Regis want anything to do with Bud Crawford. I think Bud would stop him easy.
Regis want that smoke, man.
Regis needs to focus on 140. That's true.
I mean, unless you go up to 47.
Maybe it was a clout chase.
They talked in person about that, and Crawford told him straight up he don't want it. You know what I'm saying? Regis he's too unorthodox. Like, he ain't. I mean, he got the power, but the technique ain't there, man. And
Regis.
I don't sleep on Prograis, bro.
Who?
I
ain't sleeping on him, but he ain't fucking with Bud.
That's right.
No, I'm not saying I got Bud winning that fight too. Don't get me wrong, bro. I'm not going to hater, bro. I actually like Bud. I just don't think he can beat Spence.
You know
that, I don't see a lot of people beating him.
You know, it's a good fight at 140. Mikey versus Regis Prograis.
That's an excellent fight. That's an excellent
hell of a fight.
That's an excellent fight. But you know why? That's two good reasons that's a hell of a fight. First, we can see how Mikey responds. I'll never judge anybody until they respond off of a loss. Everybody thought that what's that boy named Charlo knocked out I know what I'm talking about. The young boy Charlo knocked out in the first round. Lubin? Yeah, Erickson Lubin. Everybody thought he was done. No, he came back. He's looking good, man. You have to see how people respond after losing the fight.
I think
Mikey, that's going to be a good test against Prograis. And Prograis is going to be a good test of Mikey's skills and stuff.
I think it'll be a great fight. It's a win-win for both of these guys, because, you know, at the end of the day, Mikey needs to know how much time he got left. And if he dominates Regis, then you say, oh, Mikey's really real. I seen an interview from Mikey the other day that kind of bothered me, when he kept mentioning 147 is where he really likes to want to stay to some degree. And I'm like,
you need to stay away.
I don't think that's good.
Yeah.
I don't think that's good.
Me either.
He can't beat nobody at 47. I mean, who he gonna fight? Didn't Brandon Rios retire?
I think he should go to 142, man, because I don't know what the deal was with the Spence fight with Mikey. I say that, of course, I don't want to make this a whole big debate, but I just say that Spence hit him in a way that he didn't want to let his hands go the way he usually let his hands go. I'll just put it like that.
I mean, if you want, go ahead.
Oh, so I think that he should just drop back down, because I'm not one of these fanboy type of Spence. Spence is not the strongest puncher, so Spence hit him in a way where he don't really want to let his hand go like he usually does. What are these other welterweights going to do? I think Thurman hits just pretty much as hard as Spence. Crawford and Porter hit pretty much just as hard as Spence. Maybe not body shots because that's his specialty, but as far as just hitting period, I think these guys all have the power that Spence has, and if Spence can mobilize them, then so will these guys.
Now I do got something from JD Blanca says Teofimo said he's naturally big enough for welterweight already, and said if any welterweight like Spence call him out, he's ready next. Is that just clout or is he serious?
Man, Teofimo's talking reckless, bro. That's my guy. That's my guy. He don't need to mess with Loma right now. He don't need to mess with Spence right now. The dude need to get some experience on himself. Fight something. Take his time, bro. You calling out, talking about Spence and Loma, and come on, bro. Spence is big enough to fight 168. Hey, Teofimo fighting off 182, bro. That's ridiculous.
I know somebody who didn't call out though.
Oh, Crawford.
No, he ain't call out Crawford.
See, Bud, nobody won't smoke with Bud, man.
Prograis called out Crawford, man.
That wasn't serious.
When he moved up.
When he moved up.
Crawford could come back down. Crawford ain't huge. Crawford could come back down.
Why would Crawford come down and he's a world champion and established at 147?
What is he gonna get to fight Regis Prograis?
I don't know.
Regis has no belt.
Now, if he move up, yeah. Because Prograis gonna move up to 47.
That's like Canelo moving down to fight Jared Hurd. It makes no sense. Jared Hurd has to come see him.
That was worthless statement, really. But Prograis, I don't know if people know this or not, but that dude ain't no spring chicken, bro.
Yeah, he's like 30.
29, 30 years old.
Yeah.
So, he's gonna have to move up soon anyway. I can see him winning some fights at 147, but I can't see him beating none of the best at 147.
Yeah.
I just don't see him
All right, fellas.
You know what I mean? I don't see him beating the best at 147.
All right, fellas. We're gonna wrap it up, but I'm just say Canelo's gonna get the victory tonight. I think it's gonna be a hard-fought fight. But you guys add anything or tell them where to find you. And first thing I want to give everybody, shout out to Flame on 24. Look for his music. The man's music is fire. Go check that out. But you guys can advertise whatever you want, how people can reach you.
Flame on 24, everything. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube.
That's it. D, speak on it.
Hey man, it's just D Jefferson, man. Y'all see me anywhere, random on anybody's. I'll be on few people's live shows, giving my spill and take on this boy here. So just catch me out there.
All right, fellas.
Thanks for having me on, Luke.
Thanks for coming on. We got to do this again, fellas.